most beautiful places in the world to live, surrounded by provincial parks, pine forests, vineyards, orchards, and mountains. Wouldn't it be great if there was a podcast about our love of Kelowna? Oh no, it's real. This is I Love Kelowna, an interview-style podcast about the fabulous and fascinating people that make up our great city and the Okanagan. Intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, creatives, and anyone who has an interesting story to tell about how they're contributing to our wonderful home. This is I Love Kelowna, and here's your host, Luke J. Minkus.
So, Jaeger, you've only been in Kelowna for about a year.
Yeah.
So, tell us how you got here. What made you decide to come here?
For sure. So, since I was a kid, 7 years old, I was always going to Peachland. Mm-hmm. We'd go to Peachland and camp for about a month with my whole family. And we were that weird camping family that camped in the tent, but we had a fridge. My dad would bring a fridge. So, I just remember that very vividly. So we came out here every year, all the way up until I was about 16. My parents split when I was about 9. So we'd still come out here though with the family. I have family in Penticton, so I love this area.
Awesome. So where are you coming from?
Coming from Calgary. So born and raised in Calgary, yeah. And then every summer we'd pop out here and I loved it. Now, after that, coming into about 18, 19, 20, I would still come out here for summers because I have a bunch of buddies that live out here and I'm just like, okay, you guys are living it right. You guys know what's going on. So after that, I went through a couple different jobs before I made it out here. So after high school, I went to University of Calgary for business. After that, I got into door-to-door selling campaigns. So I was selling direct energy for about 4 years.
So what is that, like a supplement?
No, direct energy. So they're a large retailer for oil, gas, and energy services. So basically, I would knock on your door. Hey, are you here? Obviously, we receive different billing, but there it would be, are you receiving NMAX or direct energy? What do you have for your utilities, right? So I would combine them and all that jazz. Tough door knocking skills built over that 4 years. And then after that, I started my own vacuum sales company, doing the same thing, cold calling door to door and vacuum sales, which was honestly, I don't know why the heck I did that. But it was good. We had a great time. I had a big team of people, about 16 of us that were selling door to door throughout all of Alberta.
Yeah.
So then I came here to Kelowna to do that.
I want to pick your brain about that a little bit because, as you know, I'm in sales.
Yes.
But it's been said that cold calling, especially door knocking, is like the hardest form of sales you could do.
Yes.
Most people cannot do it, or at least consistently.
Yeah.
I got offered a job with Shaw Cable to go and I did a tryout for a day and I hated it.
Yeah. I
kind of regret that I didn't try to stick with it for a while, but I decided to become a realtor again. Yeah. This was like 7-8 years ago. But it was really tough. And so I'm wondering, like, what is it, something about your personality or is it persistence? Like, how do you become successful at something so difficult?
For sure. Yeah. So it was really a getting past the mind game of getting told no consistently, right? No, get a real job, get off my doorstep, get away. It's okay. Well, I'll go sign up your neighbor then, right?
Right.
So it's just kind of taking that mentality. And I trained over 450 people in 1 year, right? So we had a turnover rate for our business that was so heavy. Like we'd have 16 people in a hiring campaign every week, 10 to 16 people or so. 2 or 3 would stick around. One person would stick around for more than a month. Right. Wow. So it's a really high turnover rate because again, like you said, people are like, no thanks.
Discouraged.
Yeah, this is tough. I got told, I'm a loser today and, by someone who doesn't even matter, but it hurt their feelings, they're done. So for me, it was more so counting the numbers, right? If I knocked 100 doors, I'd walk away with at least 5 sales.
Wow.
Right. And 5 sales would put about $300-$400 in my bank account that day. So that's how I looked at it.
And you just believe that.
Yeah. Well,
statistics prove that over time. But when you're starting, you have to have a belief that that's going to happen.
Yeah. So when I started, it worked out really well. We were in it was a good time to get into that industry. And my very first day, I sold like 12 contracts in one day, which was massive. It was super awesome. I didn't understand at the time where we were. Lower income areas were easier to sell because higher turnover rate and people like to save money.
Yes.
Right. And they'll bite on that saving money more often than not when it comes to really high-end areas.
For sure.
So I just jumped into it and did really well my first couple of weeks, and I'm like, hey, let's stick with this. And then I ended up getting really close with the manager and the owner and ended up moving into management. So that's kind of what made it, feasible for me. Is I got put into a position of power, was making pretty good money, and enjoyed the people I was working with.
Nice.
If I hated all those people that make money, I don't think I would have done it.
Right. Now, I imagine as a trainer and as a sales coach, it could be frustrating too when you have so much turnover.
Yes.
Sort of like you're getting rejected in a different way.
For sure.
But is it the same thing? You just know like a certain amount of people are going to stick with it, and it's got nothing really to do. It's not a reflection on your coaching abilities when people drop out.
Yeah, it's more so their motivation, right? Like you'd have people and they'd go out on their first day. We would go from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., drop them off, and by 2:30, they're sitting in 7-Eleven sobbing. Not actually, but just, this is so tough. And I'm like, you've been doing it for an hour.
Right.
And this is is this what you do in life? Like this is the effort that you're willing to put in.
Right.
So it was really easy to find these people and say, you're done.
It's not going to work.
Right. Yeah. And then find the other people who are still, it's 9:15 comes around and they're trying to get one more sale. Right. It's people like that would stick around, that would make money. Some of these young kids that were, 17, 18 working with us were making, $3-4 grand a week when they were doing really well. Right. So it was, they'd see the money and they, but again, it would always turn back into that tough sale. When you get no's for 3-4 days straight, your motivation starts to fall apart. And so that was really it. I just knew it was a tough gig and it wasn't for everybody. So I didn't take it personally when people wouldn't take part in it.
Yeah. So what did you learn about training that maybe improved your turnover rate a little bit better? Like what did you find helpful to keep these guys motivated?
So making sure that, because a lot of the higher up guys would go drop you off and then, screw off and go to the bar, right? And I like to have a bit more hands-on approach. So I would train people very, very personally, right? Side by side. I'd walk the street with them. We'd knock doors together. They'd see exactly what I do. So that was the biggest thing. And them knowing that I was out there busting my tush too. Yeah. That made a huge difference. I would get in the van at the end of the day and be like, hey guys, I got 7 today. What'd you get? Right. Here are my contracts. Right. So you really make it kind of a fun game, a fun environment for people to be, competitive, but healthy competition. Right. I
think what you said about working hard alongside them is really crucial.
Yes.
Because you could be the smartest guy in the world, the greatest coach in the world. If you're not willing to do the work, it's hard for people to stay motivated.
Yeah.
We tend to think, well, he doesn't really know what it's like. He's sitting in a bar where it's warm and toasty.
Yeah.
And the bartender's giving him great service, not getting rejected at the bar.
Exactly. He's telling, exactly. He tells us to go do something, do as I say, not as I do, right? Exactly. And that is more so boss mentality than leadership mentality, which I think, just being a leader, being, a good person, working with them and not being like, you have to listen to me. Because if you do that, it's a tough industry. You're going to lose all your people.
Yeah.
That being said, you can no longer knock doors in Alberta.
It's illegal.
Illegal now, yeah. Anything to do with utilities or HVAC services, so like furnaces and air conditioning units, and I think the only thing you sell door to door now is like Girl Guide cookies and alarm systems.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, because people were being really scammy, right? Like, we were clean, we were nice, but you go to an 85-year-old lady's door and you lie to her about her utilities and get her to sign a 5-year contract. That's not good business, right? So that was happening consistently with a bunch of other firms.
Yes.
And everybody kind of got the brunt of that. So I was out of it long before they made it illegal.
Okay.
But yeah, I was interested. So kind of to get back into it, after the door-to-door, I came out here with a vacuum sales company when I was about 22.
And this is a year ago?
No, this is about maybe 4 years ago.
Okay.
Right? So I came out here. So this is before I actually moved out here. I was like, okay, I'm going to try and make it in Kelowna.
Yeah.
Because I love it here. So I came out and we ended up having a lot of fun boating and doing this, but not a lot of work was done. So I got my business license from, the city here, and we got the phone book out. We were cold calling, and it's a tough city to cold call. Very tough, because you have a lot of retirees and a lot of not necessarily like lower income, but strapped income, right? Where people are like, there's no way I'm spending an extra couple bucks. Whereas when we were in Fort McMurray and these guys are making 200 grand, pulling a wrench, they would buy. Right. Whereas here it was very different. So I ended up going back to Calgary shortly after that, said, it's not going to happen. I got to get into more of a career. Right. So I ended up starting as management at Flamin Fitness in Calgary. So did that for about 3-4 years, and I was a rep as well for a paddleboard company. So I really enjoyed Flamin. Awesome group of companies. Like, they got really, really great leadership teams. So that was great. And then after about four years there, I wasn't getting along with the owner. So it was kind of interesting. I said to him, we dealt with paddleboards. We brought a company from California, and it was incredibly successful. And I took care of all, like, the whole marketing, sales, absolutely everything to do with the company. So I said to the owner, he's a great guy. He's still one of my good friends, but, he's also a greedy businessman, right? That's why he's done so well. So I said to him, man, I would like some equity. I would like a piece of the pie. Right. And he said, unfortunately, Jaeger, I don't really do partnerships. I run my businesses as they are. And so that kind of set me at a standstill.
Yeah.
You'll never
hit a ceiling, and that's, and that's, in my opinion, that's a little bit short-sighted. I mean, if you've got a superstar, you want to keep them. In my opinion.
Totally. Yeah. Or like show them the way, or maybe start a separate company where there's just so many things you could do than just having your ego there and saying no.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So regardless, it was, I wasn't thinking of quitting. Nothing popped into my head that I was just like, oh, well, that's crappy. Right. Yeah. So, one door closes and another opens, in the sense. So I used to do deliveries all the time in the evening. So I'd sell treadmills, bikes, ellipticals, all that jazz. In the evenings, I'd go and do deliveries. Right. So I go into this guy's house. Beautiful.
So deliver and install.
I would deliver and install it just for cash. Yeah. So if we had like an upright bike that I could carry myself, only about 120 pounds, I'd throw them back in my truck and I'd go to their house and install it for them. It's great money.
Show them how to work it.
Yeah, exactly. 30 minutes, and they, pay you $220 cash, and it's just, okay, this is easy money for, for a young guy to do after hours. So then I walk into this house, very nice area in Calgary, and beautiful home. Very, very nice, man. And we're just kind of chatting in the basement where he's watching hockey, and we're, basically just chatting like I would with anybody else. And I'm like, you've done quite well for yourself. Do you have any gigs going on, for a young guy like me? And he looks at me, and this is about an hour into our conversation. He's like, yeah, actually, I got a company in Kelowna. Do you want to go run it for me? I said, what? I kind of shook my head. I'm like, sure. That sounds pretty awesome. Might need some more details.
Now, you told him some of your details.
So he knew who I was.
You were a salesperson. You had several years experience.
Yes.
Obviously a hustler. Great with clients.
Yes.
He could ascertain all those things.
Exactly. Because he bought from me, right? So he was like, you were so great in the office. Like, because I had 6 people in the store and all this stuff. He's like, oh yeah, it was fantastic. Things I didn't even notice, but I'm like, awesome. That's great to hear. I appreciate that. So then I didn't hear from him for about 2 weeks. Sent him an email, sent him another email. I'm like, okay, I'm getting ghosted. So I was, oh man, what's going to happen here? I was really excited for this opportunity because he's a developer in Calgary. So he's done quite well. He knows a lot of people, a very, a good mentor to have.
Yeah.
So I sent him another email. I said, hey, if the position's been filled, that's cool. I'm just kind of wondering where we're at. All right. Then he finally emails me back. Oh, sorry, Jaeger, I was gone to Arizona for 2 weeks. I'm back in town now. Can you come to the office tomorrow morning? So, of course. So 10 interviews later, about 4 or 5 months later, I wrote 2 business plans for them. Then January of last year, I packed up the U-Haul, and me and my previous girlfriend at the time packed it all up and came out here. She had a job in Calgary at the time, and it was kind of an interesting, scenario because I was like, you can stay and I'll go. But also we were, young and in love and still young. So we jumped in and came out here, and it was probably one of the best moves I've made.
Awesome.
For sure.
So what's the company? Tell us.
So yes, the company that I'm a part owner in All Seasons Pool and Spa. So we do basically anything to do with pools and hot tubs. We don't do brand new builds from the ground up. We do certain types of builds, above ground pools. We also work with Dunk, which is a company that does steel containers. And they're just pools you slap in a hole in the backyard, and they look super cool. And they're really modern and super easy to transport.
What do one of those cost?
So they're about $30,000.
Is it something you can assemble on site, or do you need a giant truck?
You need a crane, yeah. So it needs to be dropped in. It's basically a 40-foot container, or 30-foot or 20-foot, depending on the size you get. And it literally is a pool, but it's just a steel container that's been fabbed to be a pool, and then also it's coated with this chemical abrasive coating on the inside. So chlorine and all that jazz doesn't get rid of the actual film.
Yeah.
It's super cool. They just drop in and then you have all your plumbing. Everything's already plumbed in it. You just basically run all the plumbing to where you have your equipment, where your pump and heater and all that.
Yeah.
Plumbing.
So about 30 grand for the big one? Or the
Yeah,
small
about 30 grand, right around there. It depends on what you get when it comes to your pump and heater, because heaters can run anywhere from $0 if you don't want one, or 10 grand if you get a really high efficiency forced draft unit, right? So that's on like the extreme high end, and so average you're spending about 4 or 5 grand on a heater. A pump's about 1,100, so things start to add up depending on how fancy you get, and then also the plumbing and the excavation. But
yeah, could you ship a small one or 2 small ones to Miami?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you just throw them on a flatbed.
The reason I'm asking is because I own a piece of land in the Cayman Islands where I lived for 11 years.
Nice.
Now the cost of labor is ridiculous, and you got to pay 20% duty on anything you bring in. But if you're putting in concrete blocks and cement, just kind of multiplies because you got to pay for the labor. Yeah. But if you had a container, we would pay 20% duty and it would be delivered to my doorstep.
Yeah.
I'd have to have someone there install it. But I think it'd be a lot cheaper than
concrete,
the old traditional,
steel walls, and it is. It's a lot easier, and the pool lasts longer, and it's sturdier. So we kind of deal with a couple different things in that genre of building, right? We don't do, like I said, the ground up, but a couple different neat things have hit the market. And then other than that, mainly maintenance and repair. So we have a couple contracts with places, like lagoons downtown, for example. We take care of their pool and hot tub and the indoor pool in the wintertime. So mainly maintenance and repair is what we focus on.
Nice. So was this a Calgary company that expanded here?
So what actually happened, how it started was my business partner, they have a place just on the water, right? It's called Mission Bay. It's right close to Gyro Beach.
Yeah.
They had a hot tub, and the industry is, I don't talk poorly about anybody whatsoever in our industry just because that's bad business.
Right.
But there is a precedent set that quality of service is kind of low. Either there's too many pools and hot tubs that these, people can't get to them, or I don't know what the excuse is. Yeah. But they were getting incredibly horrible service from the company they were with at the time. And one of the service guys that was working for that company finally came out and he's like, I'm so sorry, you guys, we were supposed to see you 3 weeks ago, right? They don't even call, let you know. So the my business partner was quite frustrated, and he said, man, like, what are you guys doing over there? What's going on? And the service tech was like, honestly, I don't really know what they got going on. It's not really the best scenario. So they both chatted and they were like, let's do our own thing, right? So they decided to do their own thing, which is awesome. That's when All Seasons started. And then they ran for about 4 or 5 months, about 6 months actually. And then they did okay, right? But it's the service manager. He's not necessarily a sales guy. He's not a marketer. He's not a business development guy. He's really good at what he does, right? Yeah. So they didn't have a sales guy. They hired someone, didn't work out, blah, blah, blah. So that's where they were like, okay, we're either going to get somebody in here to build this or we're going to kibosh it. Right. So that's where I came into the picture. And last January, so we boosted the company this year by 800%. From the year before. So I was really happy. We saw a huge increase, and it's just treating people right. It's calling people back. It's, if we make a mistake, we point it out and say, this is what we're going to do to fix it. Not trying to hide stuff, not lying to customers, not lying about pricing. It's just being an open book, being transparent. And then people aren't scared because the pool industry is odd. People think you're lying, or people think you weren't there, or people think that you actually don't need these chemicals. There's so much confusion where for people to take my recommendation, it's almost like pulling teeth. And I'm not sure why, because I'm a super honest guy. Right?
I think lying even about small things creates that problem over time. So like if you say, I'm going to get back to you in 2 days and then 3 weeks go by, the credibility has been hurt.
It's gone.
And we see this in a lot of industries, right? In 2016, actually, in real estate, it was so busy here. And I picked up a lot of deals because people would tell me, I can't get my realtor to call me back.
Yeah.
Like they're not returning my calls. They're too busy. So I was like, I'll help you.
Yeah.
And I would drive over. So I think like even the little things you think, oh, well, it's no big deal. They know I'm busy. And then, people are like, how do I trust this person that's now trying to sell me $200 worth of chemicals?
Yeah. And they slough you off, and then, now I'm your best friend. Right. So that was kind of, why we've done well, right? Why we got good ratings and all that stuff. And then come March, I started at the Paddle Lifestyle. So that's another company that we have here. And that's an online retailer for inflatable paddle boards and kayaks. So I used to, like I said, I used to be a rep for about 6 years in paddle boards.
Right.
So I know the industry really well. I know that the industry is moving heavily into inflatable because rigids are just long.
Yeah. Hard to store.
Exactly.
So we've sold a ton of these micro suites. I don't know if you've heard of those, but they're basically like a hotel room with a laundry and a full kitchen.
Okay.
But they're really small, like 350 square feet.
Cool.
And a lot of these people are into the outdoors quite a bit because you get claustrophobic, like you can't be indoors all the time.
Yeah.
But it's, it's beautiful, it's comfortable, it's a great place to sleep, make a meal. So a lot of these people have paddle boards and bikes and all these things.
Yeah.
So inflatable makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. It's really, and the technology's come so far now that, if you take a brand new person that's into paddleboarding, you put them on a rigid board and you put them on a decent quality inflatable board, they wouldn't notice a difference. If they're blindfolded, they would not be able to pick out a difference. Again, if you're getting into surfing or racing, then the carbon fiber boards are going to perform better, of course, right? But if you're not looking to spend $3-4 grand and you want to have a recreational board, that's why I went inflatable. So the market is just massive for inflatable and recreation users, whereas that market for high quality, high performance boards is maybe 5% of the market.
Wow.
Right? Very small. And they go with the big brands, right? Well, so I warehouse everything there. So I get orders in online, slap a Canada Post label on them and ship them to Ontario, Newfoundland, Calgary, even our backyard right here. So
any American sales?
No, I don't do sales in the States. The reason why is I had such an issue with customs you can, and there's definitely opportunity for that down the road. But all the brands that I carry are already in the States as well with different retailers. Right. So you have to, if I was going to do it, I'd have to purchase a lot to be able to be a big player down there.
Right.
So Canada, and I want to focus on Canada. There's not really good companies that are doing a good job in Canada. There is a lot of companies that have been around for a long time, but you go to their website and it's archaic. It's from, the early 2000s, right? And they're still doing big numbers in sales. And so it's just I wanted to give a really good approach, good customer service, good feedback, good knowledge, and also have the ability to have things be visually appealing. One of the cool things we do with the Paddle Lifestyle as well is we take a portion of our profits and donate to the Ocean Cleanup Foundation.
Okay.
So we want to make sure they just actually launched, they plan to have the Pacific Garbage Patch cleaned by 2025. And they're actually well on their way.
So that's all the plastic and junk that we see.
Yeah, the size of Texas, bigger than Texas.
Wow.
It's garbage.
And they've got machines and nets and things to pick that up.
They have this massive machine. They spent millions and millions of dollars, and they have a couple different units that they send out. But these things are like miles long, and they basically come and collect it all, and it gets siphoned into kind of a funnel almost, where it's then taken and then sent back to shore and recycled, broken down into different materials that we can then reuse.
Wow.
So,
do you know where most of this trash is coming from?
All of us beautiful human beings.
So all over the place.
All over the place.
It's not like the Japanese are the worst or...
And again, that's something that I'm not knowledgeable on. I couldn't really point fingers in that sense. But all I know is that even us here in Canada are pretty bad when it comes to chucking stuff out. Right. And that's, the biggest issue is a lot of these third world countries that don't necessarily have the means of landfills or recycling plants. They have nowhere to put it. Right. So
it goes into a ditch, then you get heavy rains and it gets washed out.
Everything. Everything. Every river goes to the ocean, right? So it all kind of goes down to patient A, patient zero. And we get to, I get to see, as it gets worse and worse, it's nice to see that people are making a difference. So that's why we decided to donate a portion of profits to these guys, just because at the end of the day, it's awesome because we want to be able to paddleboard in the ocean for years to come. Yeah. And B, it's nice for someone purchasing a product from you to know also that their a couple of their dollars are going to go to a beneficial source.
Definitely. We are right now late or mid-January 2019. I'm not sure when this episode will come out.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the next few weeks. But As of today, what is your sense of the Canadian economy? As a retailer, is it growing? Is it sluggish? What do you think?
So Canada is one of the number one countries in the world for online sales.
Okay.
So we purchase more stuff than any other country in the world online, which is good for that side of the business. Per capita, exactly, yeah. Per capita. So I think that the economy is so tough. I mean, I'm an Alberta boy, so I hear all of the stuff about the oil and gas economy and this and that. And so I can't dive too deep into that because, again, my knowledge isn't there in that. I can't have a proper argument for that because I don't know the points of both sides. All I do know is that, hopefully our economy stays strong in the sense of retailing. Last year, 6% of people 2017, so not last year. 2017, 6% of Canadians bought online. 2018, 8% of Canadians bought online. Wow. So we're seeing increasing trends when it comes to online markets, which is what I focus on. And then other than that, the economy, heck, you'd know better than me, Luke.
Right.
Yeah, you'd know better than me. I'm hoping for good things.
Well, it's mixed. So I talked to some people in a restaurant business.
Yep.
And they're mixed. Some are doing great, some are slow.
Yes.
Real estate, it's a little bit slow right now for most of us, not for all of us, right? So I'm just curious, like your business, have you seen an increase in 2018 or was it a little bit flat?
So it was, it was interesting because they were both brand new businesses, right? Yeah, so we've seen a huge increase in both businesses, but simply because we just started, it's a new company. Yeah. So we don't really have much to compare it to in the sense. But speaking of that, we have, the numbers from the previous year and there's more people moving here and this and that, again, with the speculation tax and this and so many different things that I'm not knowledgeable on, but you hear all these horror stories of, I'm selling my place out there in Kelowna. I think people will always want to be here. It's a beautiful place and I love it here. And I think, just keeping my head up. I'm a pretty positive dude, so I try to keep my head up. I'll always be able to find customers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So growing up, you were a big hockey fan,
I was.
Most of us Canadians.
Yep.
And Calgary, I guess, because you are from Calgary.
Yes. Yep.
I think this is going to be a year when almost every Canadian team should make the playoffs. Do you have any predictions for this year?
Yeah, I want to Flames all the way.
Yeah.
That Stanley Cup, right?
Got a shot?
Got to knock on wood on that one. Well, they're performing incredible this year, but Tampa Bay is also just a force to be reckoned with, right?
Yeah.
So hockey-wise, I don't follow too many other teams except the Flames. I follow them religiously. We beat the Oilers last night, which is always a good feel. Can't let Edmonton be taking us down. So, I would love to see Calgary make it into, just making it into the playoffs, making it into the second round, whatever it may be. I definitely fly home for that too, because I have the Red Mile and I got a lot of buddies that love the Flames.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you've heard of the Red Mile. Yeah. So they do a big party and it's just really fun, really good environment. So that's who I would hope for. But Tampa Bay realistically is looking really good this year.
Yeah. Well, the Toronto Maple Leafs beat Tampa Bay the other night. So I'm from Toronto.
Toronto's doing good.
I was a Leaf fan before I could speak English.
Yeah.
As most Canadians are, right? Like
exactly.
Your parents got you wearing the jersey and sitting on dad's lap watching the game.
Yeah.
Right? But it's exciting. We've got several great teams this year.
Yeah, Toronto's looking good. And and they've really stepped it up in the past I'd probably say the past 20 games they've been playing really well.
Yeah.
And then Vancouver is doing well. They got the new young guy Pettersson there. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Winnipeg's doing quite well too.
Yeah, Winnipeg's awesome. Montreal's doing pretty good. So
all the teams are doing good in Canada, which is a really good sign.
Yeah.
Right? I like to see that.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to cover? Because I covered all my questions. I'll delete this part.
Honestly, no. There's not much else.
That's a good interview, and we'll put links to your online store and stuff like that.
Perfect.
Which is great. Who would you like to nominate to come on the show?
So I'd like to nominate Brady McDonald.
Brady McDonald.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm going to nominate him for sure. Yeah, he's a super nice guy, young guy. He taking over his father's car lot over on Clement.
Okay.
Yeah,
which car lot?
It's called Shale Ridge Auto.
Shale Ridge Auto. So it's used cars.
Yeah.
And he's a young guy, and he's going to be
taking it over from Pops. Yeah. So Pops is slowly kind of getting out. He's getting in. So they've had that lot for years.
Right.
Yeah.
I love to talk to salespeople, especially young salespeople.
Yeah.
It's really great to see. I tell my kids, if you can become good at sales, you can do anything.
Totally.
Anything you want to do.
Yes.
Some of our kids are artists, like they're amazing artists.
Okay, yeah.
If you don't know how to sell, you're just, you need a sponsor, you need a benefactor.
Something, yeah.
But if you know how to sell, you can do literally anything you want to do.
Yeah. So, no, that's why I was never worried. If I lost my job, I could go either. Salesmen are always being hired, right?
Exactly.
Anywhere you go.
Good ones.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. If you're no good, kick to the curb, right? But for sure.
Awesome.
Right on.
Jaeger, thanks so much for your time.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Okay.
You've been listening to I Love Kelowna. We love where we live. And how can you not? With all the provincial parks, pine forests, vineyards, orchards, mountains. On each show, we have in-depth, intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, execs, thought leaders, and creatives, all that make up Kelowna. You can support the show so we can keep producing by going to paypal.me/Luke Menkes. And make sure to visit the official website at ilovekelowna.buzzsprout.com. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. And we hope you had some fun along the way. We'll be back soon. Until then, this is I Love Kelowna signing off.